What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to talk about the NASDAQ for real estate, Lofty.AI. We'll see about that. This is Joe Catchpollia sitting on the couch, making some money investing in fractional real estate online, as usual. If you've been watching my channel for a while and you are part of the Discord or part of Lofty's Discord, um, you probably have seen a lot of these arguments between people who have approached the platform like it's just a place to passively invest, like a place where you could effortlessly, buy real estate as effortlessly as trading shares of Tesla, right? Who have taken that at face value, um, you know, logged onto the property, logged onto the website, looked at the property, um, believed oh, look at that going so slow right now. Believed the, projected annual returns, took that at face value, and just moved forward and purchased. There's a lot of those people. But you see arguments between those people and the people like me and a lot of the other people in our Discord who basically, spend time every single day in the Lofty Discord looking at the properties, doing due diligence, um, and really actually getting the most out of the platform. And so seeing those arguments over and over again gets really frustrating because I think that one of the things, the reason I'm doing this channel in general, I really believe in fractional real estate investing. I think that it is important to create a community where we're like actually helping each other and moving the industry in the right direction. And I think a lot of times when, some of us that are sort of entrenched in this space just jump on those people and be like, "Hey, why are you complaining? You should have done more due diligence." Which I don't disagree with, right? Like, I mean, I'm always telling everybody, "Hey, do your own due diligence." But if you think about the presentation of this website and the marketing that they do, um, I 100% understand why somebody who's just invested in stocks in the past, for example, and then found this website, when you are on your broker's website, right, where you're buying stocks, you never see like projected returns that are not, like that seems guaranteed to a lot of people because in general, otherwise that's deceptive marketing, right? Like what do you mean now if you hover over the little button, it tells you what they mean by projected return and it has nothing to do with what I would actually project my long-term return in that asset to be. Um, but a lot of people don't hover over every little button on a website and they just, they believe that they can, take certain things at face value, rightly or wrongly. I mean, obviously wrongly in most cases. Um, but so, a lot of those people have put a lot of money on the site, sometimes money that they really shouldn't have gambled, right? Like, I mean, projected annual return on most sites that you're going to that are like, actual investment sites are not going to give you this at all, right? I mean, a lot of them just like if I buy a stock, it's not going to tell me what my projected return is going to be on that stock. I might be able to look up like analysts evaluations and I can look at like the actual trailing financials of the of the um, companies and the companies themselves might put together some projections, but you're not when I'm looking at like Apple stock, there's nothing that says you're going to make this much money, right? But when you read projected annual return, that sounds like you're telling me I'm going to make this much money. Like that Lofty expects that I'm going to make this much money until I do this and start looking at it. So I completely understand where those people are coming from. Obviously, a big part of me doing this channel is to try to help avoid there being a lot more of those people. But I honestly think that Lofty's in the best position to stop creating more of those people. They just don't have, I think, the right financial incentives to do that in the short run. I think in the long run they do, right? I think in the long run, really being upfront with everybody, making them realize, no, you're not just an investor, you're both the product and the customer, right? Like, and what I mean by that is you're both buying the entity, but then also you're running that entity. There's not some other person responsible for running that entity. It's you, right? And so it's it makes it very different from in case you don't know what the Nasdaq is, right? It's a stock exchange, but I want sorry, my recorder froze already. Hopefully this isn't a problem all night. But so I wanted to tell you, share a little bit about like, okay, if I want to list something on the stock exchange, right, to qualify it for listing on the exchange, must be registered with the SEC, or the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, have at least three market makers, and meet a minimum requirement for assets, capital, public shares, and shareholders. I don't know if you know what market makers are, right? But this is I think what we're really missing. These are companies that they're set up to be liquidity providers for the stocks, but they won't just be a liquidity provider for any stock, right? Like those market makers have typically done a lot of vetting of the companies themselves, right? Like they're the ones who they're sort of the gatekeepers, right? If you can't find a market maker, you can't list on the NASDAQ. And so, these are usually big firms, big Wall Street firms, or some of them you'd never hear their names, but some of them are like Morgan Stanley, I think is one of them that where might be more of a household name, and they have a division that does this. But a lot of them are, you know, I mean, there's like a lot of them are names that you wouldn't run into unless you've worked on Wall Street or had some exposure to the financial markets. But that's one thing, right, that you have to have to list on the NASDAQ. And that's one of the quality controls. And then the other is, they have their capital and income requirements. And so like this is from, your NASDAQ initial listing. There's all these different standards that you can use to be able to list, but all of them require that you have the market maker. And then, depending on which one you fall under, it might be that you have to have a certain amount of pre-tax, earnings from operations, either that or a certain revenue or cash flows, market caps. There's all these different ways that you can qualify. They have a couple of different um, ways, but the point is that somebody is actually looking at all of those aspects of the business. They also have to provide um, audited financials, right? So there's a lot of due diligence in vetting that goes into being able to get listed on the exchange. Well, I was watching this video today. If you haven't seen it's like 4 weeks old, but I saw it for the first time today. You should check this out. I'm going to try to play it, and I think that you're going to be able to hear the video, I hope. But this is an interview someone was doing with Max at Lofty, and so just check out how he describes what you can list on the platform.
Here. Why don't we start off with what type of property makes sense? What is your target type property?
Sure. Thanks for having me, guys. Currently, we have 160 different properties on the marketplace, ranging from single-family homes, duplexes, triplexes, some commercial properties, multifamily, office. We have a few parcels of land, and then we have a number of vacation rentals as well. I would say probably close to 25 Airbnbs on the marketplace. So it's a wide variety. Most of the properties are rental properties where the owner is essentially looking to sell a portion of their equity to investors on the marketplace. We have as well a few properties where the actual seller lives in the property and they're selling equity in their primary residence and essentially paying the investors a rental yield and then purchasing the equity back at a future date. And so a number of different properties, different structures. Really, with our tokenization infrastructure, we can launch any types of properties with any different structure as long as it's legal.
So they asked Max, what do you target for this platform? And his response was basically any real estate as long as it's legal. That's been my main frustration with the platform. When I think of the Nasdaq, I don't think, okay, you're not going to have your mom and pop convenience store down the street listed on the Nasdaq. You're not going to have the equivalent of which is what I think that a lot of these properties are, right? I think when you describe yourself like that and then present properties in a certain way, one, I mean, it's confusing because one, they're very adamant about we're not creating securities, and I believe that. I think that the way it's set up, it's not. But then you're using as the example of what they're doing a platform that sells securities, right? That sells something that's completely passive. That there's never a case where a business that's listed on the Nasdaq is having problems, and it's up to the shareholders that just bought individual shares, like me sitting at home owning Apple stock. I don't even know if Apple's on. I think it is on. I don't know. I don't know if it's on the Nasdaq or not. I really don't know because I'm not a stock guy. But me sitting at home, it's never up to me to figure out what's wrong, propose votes to fix it. Like there's a team in place on the company side, right? But because we're both the customer and the product here, right? We're the ones running the investments once we've bought them. The analogy just really breaks down. But the people who bought into that on the front end didn't do a whole, and shame on them for not doing more due diligence, right? Like I think that they definitely should take some blame. But when you think about how often one of those people jumps in the Discord, it's not like it happens once a month, right? Like every single, at least once a week, almost every day, there's some new person in there complaining or that jumps into our Discord and complains. Oh, that reminds me. Please like and subscribe. In the description to this video, I've got a link to the Discord that I've set up. It's just a generic fractional real estate investors Discord. We talk about a lot of different platforms. Lofty is the one that has the most active discussions, probably because I do the most videos about them because there's always something going on that I can talk about. I also have links to all the other platforms I'm currently investing in fractional real estate on. Do your own due diligence on all the platforms and on all the properties, right? Just because I talk about the platform doesn't mean it's worth investing in. And just because I invest in it doesn't mean that you should. And the same thing with properties themselves, right? But so, definitely on a weekly basis, but almost every day, there's someone new that I run into who's like, yeah, I got in here, I saw what they were, just read the website, didn't look at every single due diligence document, didn't do the stuff that we're talking about on this channel all the time. Some of these people put a lot of money in there. Some people put a large portion of their retirement account. On average, like we talked about the other day, those people have lost close to 30% of value, right? If you look at the average token price right now, it's gone down close to 30%. Now, some of those people collected some yield along the way. Some people, if they got a little bit lucky, might be doing better. Although right now, I think that the average is where it is because you also have a lot of newer properties that are still close to 50, many of which I don't believe will stay there. Um, and so, if it was an isolated incident, you think, okay, let's blame that person. They're an idiot, right? But it's not, right? It happens at least a couple times a week, almost every day. A lot of these people are smart people. They've been successful in other parts of their life. They have large amounts of capital. I want to welcome them into our community, right? I want to help them make good decisions. Um, I think as long as Lofty continues to market themselves the way that they do, uh, and provide the product that doesn't really match with that marketing, that we're going to just keep having this struggle. And so one thing I want to address is, if you are interacting with these people on Lofty's Discord or on mine, I'd appreciate it if we tried to really embrace them, right? Like, be like, look, instead, I think one of the things that happens is a lot of the guys that are like me that we're in this every day and kind of get attached to Lofty, almost a little bit like a Stockholm syndrome, except it's not. For me, it's not because I'm definitely, I got in here with my eyes wide open, did the due diligence, and actually making some money. But there are some people that just feel trapped here, right? And even some of those people really stick up for Lofty, but definitely some of the ones that are some of the ones that maybe are co-owners or that have, are bigger investors in certain properties or, really become like, guard dogs for the platform and are like, no, you should have read the fine print. You should have known that's what you're doing. One of the things I hear all the time is, well, what are you doing to help this investment? You didn't do anything to make it work. You're not active here. Why are you complaining? And it's like, well, they're complaining because the marketing that they saw didn't make it super clear. Like, yes, there is, when I go through after I've bought a token, I'm asked to sign an agreement, right? That says, oh, I need to be voting and stuff. But I don't even see that until after I bought the token if I don't intentionally click through to it. And if you're in dark mode, you actually only see the click here button. You don't even see any of the text, at least not when I read it in dark mode. I think there's maybe some, you know, maybe if you have real good eyes or something, you can. But like when I have that little thing that pops up the first time I buy one, and it's got this text, if because I have dark mode, I can't read it at all. I can see the click here for I think that it goes to. I always have to switch back to light mode, if I want to do that. And so, you know, you don't even see that info until after you've bought tokens. And, I mean, not everybody reads every single line of stuff when you're clicking through stuff buying online, right? I know, like, when I buy stocks, I think probably nobody buys the whole or reads the whole prospectus. I mean, that's why I stopped investing in stocks, is because I used to read every 10K that came out. I listened to every conference call that the company would do, that, with the investor conference calls or the analyst conference calls. I would do all that stuff on every stock, and, like, to really, um, do good due diligence on there. I felt like that's what you had to do. But the difference is, you have to do that yourself on here, but they do have, in the stock market, you have those market makers that are doing a lot of vetting before they agree to be a market maker, but also you have all these Wall Street analysts that are the ones doing that work, spending the time. You have reporters doing it too, covering things, and so you have this like infrastructure that is looking out for that deal for you. So the average Joe can just log on, to whatever site they like to trade on, buy stocks off that exchange, and not think about them again for a year, right? Well, if that's not the like, I think the messaging is just way off if that's not the experience that we're providing, right? And so I don't know. I think one, like I said, I mean, the thing that we can do immediately is really try to embrace those people more. Be like, look, I know that's what it seems like. Like, that's just acknowledge it, right? Like, that's one of the things I think, like, just acknowledging that, look, this is just not. I get that it's not, you didn't get what you thought you were getting, but this is the situation now, and many of us are successful on the platform, and these are the things that you have to do. Like, that's the number one thing I think that we can do as a small group of investors here. But the other thing is too, I think we should just constantly push for, and I know I pick on Lofty a lot, but it's because it's a platform I think that has a lot of potential if they would just get out of their own way on a couple of these big issues, right? Like, you just can't have screaming angry people every single week and think that it's not partially your fault, right? Like, this is clearly a problem that's created with the messaging and the look of the website. And there's another one that, like, where is this? It's on so many different pages. Why don't I see it now? Let me see. Let me go to my account page. I think it's yeah. Look, I can refer a friend, right? Oh, this actually really made me a little bit angry too, right? This referral link's been broken forever, and I still see it all over the site. Well, this listen to this. So this was the end of this call. This is my first reaction video. So let me know what you think about this format. Definitely listen to this whole thing though, because I think it's important. One, listen to this. This virtual investor. Feel free to jump in and comment on his too. I mean, I always like you to like and subscribe and comment on my videos. But if this is how they're getting out there, we should definitely, if you're an active investor on the platform, be willing jump in here and engage with some of these other people. But okay, this is how they signed off.
Appreciate it. I've got like Paul, I've got a large audience of investors that I can present this to. I think given all that you've shared today, I can do that with a pretty good degree of confidence.
Good degree of confidence. So that'd
be amazing. But like I shared with Paul, like happy to figure out some sort of a affiliate program for you, of course, if you're going to be sharing this with both investors and sellers. So happy to jump, talk about that more async, jump on another call, whatever.
I accidentally shut my recorder off instead of the video at first, but I think that was really all I wanted you to hear, right? Like, the end of that video, and hey, of course we're going to help you. We'll set up a affiliate program with you, where many of us have, I'm sure, referred lots of people over the last 6+ months that this link has been broken, while still seeing the link every day on the website. I mean, like, this is the type of stuff that I think the messaging could just be fixed easy, right? Like, I mean, I don't know anything about coding, but I've had my own websites where I've been able to just fix my text real quick, right? Like, just take that off of there. Don't let me send referral links out and tell me people are going to get $50, and if they're not, right? Like, I mean, that's just one example. I think the bigger example, or the bigger problem, is really that main messaging though, right? It is this: buy and sell real estate as effortlessly as trading a share of Tesla. Like, that's not true. Like, okay, maybe the actual purchase is just a couple clicks, but the ownership part, maybe that's just what we're missing, right? And then also too, um, instant liquidity anytime is, I think they're really overselling that, right? Like, I think we've talked about that in other videos, but It's because of how thin the pools are and how thin the markets are. Like, you just get crazy slippage if you're trying to get any kind of actual liquidity. Like, and sometimes, it's a you're taking a 30% haircut or more. So like technically there's liquidity, but it's not liquidity that I want, right? Like it's not like the stock market where I'm going to be able to sell at market price and my sales are not going to tank the market, right? So I don't know. I think all of that. I'm sure it's what's creating the problems for these people that we run into. And so like really as someone who just wants this industry to get better, wants the ecosystem to grow, I think we got to fix it, right? And so like I said, what we can do as participants here is just um help the people that did get here understand that this is not what you're getting, right? You are not getting this. You're buying into an entity where you now have just as much responsibility to run it as anybody else. Like nobody else is more responsible than you, right? So even if you have a co-owner, some of those co-owners are really, treating it like their baby and really taking care of it, but they don't really have an obligation to do that, right? Like if you look at the documents, they have to hold a certain amount. Some of them have a property management agreement, and they're basically like a property manager. We've seen that lately, right, where you can take that management role away from them. And so, as the owner of one small piece of this, you have just as much responsibility to try to steer the entity as any other person, right? Like maybe not as much at stake because some other people own more, but there's not somebody, there's not some CEO that's running each one of these things. That's something that's different, right? On the NASDAQ, any one of those investments that you make, there's a CEO running that, right? There's somebody in charge that's making all the decisions. There's a board. Like it's just a different thing. And, so I know it sounds really good. And they're trying to get it across in one thing. And I know in the past I've said, well, be the eBay, right? But let me see. I think it's going to sign me in, and then you'll see my little T-shirt business thing. Nope. Oh, it's not. Okay. Um, but so like if I go to eBay, this is more like it, right? Anybody can put anything for sale on here. But even if I told you this is the eBay of real estate, I think you're going to be let down because if somebody scams you, eBay is going to process a return for you real quick and you get your money back. Uh, we have found recently that that is not how it works on Lofty, right? And so they're like, well, yeah, I mean, if you bought stock and that company went out of business or someone scammed that company, you wouldn't get your money back from the NASDAQ. So, when that's helpful to them, I think they kind of really lean on that. We're this marketplace, but where, in other ways, it's just very much not fitting that narrative at all. Um, I don't know. You can tell I'm getting sick of like it annoys me when I see how many of these people there are. I mean, there's just tons of people that have lost a lot of money. They're not idiots. I mean, like some of them are idiots, right? But I don't think most of them are. I think most of them are a little too trusting. They're too used to seeing other platforms where, like, a lot of them are like, well, how can they tell me that's my return if that's not my return? Like, that's false advertising. To me, that seems pretty accurate, right? Like, I can't find another place where I'm buying an investment where they're actually just saying, hey, this is your projected annual return. Like, and I know again, like I know in the fine print it tells you what that projected annual return means, and obviously if you read that, that has nothing to do with the actual return you're going to make holding it. Um, but yeah, so it frustrates me like that there are so many of these people, but also the way our community sort of treats them isn't great, right? Like I think that we've just run a lot of people off, and they're people that have money that could be active participants and help this industry grow, but are, most of the time they get here really frustrated because they bought something they didn't understand. They've lost a lot of money, and it's gotten to a point where, most people don't join a public Discord and complain about something until they're super frustrated, right? Like I can't think of another. I mean, I wasn't active on Discord at all, other than for one video game community I used to be in. But other than that, I never was on Discord until Lofty, and now I'm here all the time. But like people don't just jump into that, um, for without most of the time people to go and leave a review or to do something like that, it's because they've exhausted their other thoughts on what am I going to do here. And that's the other thing too. The Discord only being available once you invest is kind of crummy, right? Because like I think a lot of people, if you got in there and you read, you'd maybe never bought that first token to begin with. And I don't know. So that I think that there's a lot going on that's creating all of these disgruntled people, and I'd love for us to treat them better as a community and to like help them into the fold, figure out, hey, this is how, okay, what do you own? Let's try to move you to some better properties. Let's try to help you understand how to not be in that situation again. Let's try to come up with some proposals to make that property work better, or maybe we sell it and cut our losses. Like, I mean, I think all of that is something that some of the more experienced people could be doing versus just berating people for making a bad decision. um, and then beyond that, uh, putting pressure on every platform that we're on, and I mean Lofty is the one I'm talking about today, but to make sure that they're living up to the marketing that they're giving, right? Like if like a lot of us I think have just kind of accepted like, yeah, of course. I mean, I don't even look at their projected yield for anything. Like I think that like their numbers are they are completely meaningless to me. Like I just dig into every deal myself, and I think that I've been kind of proven right by that over the last 6 months. I mean, there's a lot of properties that I put out a video on 6 months ago, or sometime around when I started. I was like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. I wouldn't invest in this. And lo and behold, at this point, yeah, they didn't come anywhere close. They maybe paid that yield for a couple months, and then bam, there's a problem, or the rent credit ran out, or it stopped early. Like, I mean, so there's not another, and this, I think that Lofty is really the worst offender at the moment. Like, if I think about Mogul, everything that I've bought on there so far has paid me what I've expected to. Some of them have paid better. Um, and but it's early. I've only owned stuff on there for 6 months. So could they falter? Of course. And are some of them going to fall short? Yes. I mean, I 100% believe that. I know that on obviously Landa was not perfect, and caused all kinds, not perfect is a way understatement, right? But all kinds of people lost money there. I think on Arrived, you've seen some of them underperform projections, but they really build so much of their projection into like, or so much of the return into the appreciation that we're not really going to know where those end up for a while. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that it's like I think we should just demand better, right? Like Saul's Lot, I think is a perfect like so far. I mean, I've only had a couple that I've cashed out already, but you get exactly what they give you, they tell you up front what you're getting, and you get it. And I think like that's what most people expect. If you're going to, I think the alternative is like if you think about if I look on at stocks on my like E-Trade or whatever that I still have, it might tell me the current dividend yield and what it's trading at and whatnot, but it's not telling me what I'm going to make. It's not telling me my projected return. It's not projecting a return into the future on that platform. So maybe just give you the properties and be like, look, you need to figure it out for yourself, because the real answer is you need to figure it out for yourself. Like none, I mean, Leclerc is paying out 6%, 6%, all along, but that's because nobody bought it yet, right? Like, but even some of the ones that I own that I'm happy with the performance. I mean, there are some exceptions, right? There are ones that I've been basically getting paid what I was told I was going to get paid almost every single month or close to it, sometimes, but even that, because the projected return doesn't have a vacancy collection loss, doesn't have a repairs and maintenance reserve or anything, you're still not getting, you'll never get, you might get it on individual months, but you'll never get it over any reasonable holding period. So I don't know, maybe just take that off, right? Like, but it's frustrating to see that like I feel like there's people whose their lives have actually been ruined by this platform, and yet I'm still on here on a regular basis because I believe that there's a lot of potential here, right? I don't know. There's another long, weird rant, but I think it's really in order because, I hate to see it when, and it's been, I saw it probably three or four different locations on Lofty's platform today, but like really like all the time lately where, even in our Discord, some of it where like people are just like, look, you just aren't using it right. But like don't, and I can see why people get fed up and don't have the patience because we do see these people all the time. But like when we keep seeing them, it's not it's a pattern, but they're not the ones causing that pattern, right? So anyway, I think that's it for me for tonight. Um, if you have other solutions, right? If you have other ideas on how we as a community can help fix this problem, I mean, other than just bullying Lofty into having an honest website, I think the problem is if they were completely honest up front with what the deal is, that you'd have a lot less people jumping in the beginning, right? Most people came here because they want a passive investment experience. And so I think that's part of the problem. The other issue is, like I said, I think, okay, if you're not going to change the messaging, well, let's change what Max was talking about in this first video, right? Like, let's change and do like what the NASDAQ is doing, right? Let's have some actual standards. Let's make it so a deal has to actually be a decent deal. I mean, that's why I like Mogul so much because even though I don't invest in every single property that they put up there, I think if I did, I wouldn't lose a ton of money. I think on average, I'm still going to make money if I literally just bought some of every single one. And again, do your own due diligence on that platform and on those deals. Just because I think that doesn't mean it's true. Um, but the complete opposite is true. I mean, he basically just said you can list whatever you want on here as long as it's legal. So like that doesn't make that means that these are not you know until we can fix that, right? And I mean, it's terrible to be, because they said, hey, what are you targeting? And he said, anything. And as somebody who's worked in this industry for a long time, I've seen lots of investors that's their model is I'm just going to look for anything, and that's always a recipe for failure. And like that's why over and over again there's new stuff on the platform that fails. Like there's just new ways to buy deals that you're going to lose money on. Like it's okay, short-term rentals are really cool. Let's start putting more of those on the platform. Okay, but we're putting the worst short-term rentals, relative to the marketplace because if people had great numbers, they're probably not listing it on here. And it's not 100% true. There are some short-term rentals that are doing perfectly fine and I'm happy with. I own some of them. I own some of this property and this one and again, do your own due diligence, don't buy it because I did. Um, there's a few though. There's a few others of the short-term rentals that I own. I own some of this one. I'm happy with it. It hasn't been exactly what was projected, but it's doing perfectly fine, especially for the price point that I got into it because I bought on a dip. But again, yeah, if I guess if I had bought that for 50, I'd be unhappy. But it's like so they keep coming up with, oh well, let's try a different and that's one of the things he says later. But please do watch that whole thing and also throw a comment on there if you think that it's not very accurate in different ways. I try not to, I'm really like I would like to have a good relationship with all the platform providers. I really want their business to succeed. I want a lot, I have some money on there, not a lot of money at all, but I'd like to put 10 times as much. I don't have, like I said, I don't have a ton of money in here. I'd like to put 10 times as much. There just needs to be a lot of changes before I'll do that, right? Like, and that's what, and I know there's a bunch of people in my same, so I know there's lurkers on the Discord who haven't bought anything, or I guess they must have bought their one token property, but people who've put very little money on that are sitting on, like, I know a couple guys in there that are literally deca millionaires that would love it if this platform actually lived up to the promise of what they're trying to do. Um, but that doesn't happen without some standards, right? Like you can't be the NASDAQ and be full of, corner convenience stores and liquor stores and massage parlors and I mean like if you think about companies, relative to like you should if I heard when I see the Nasdaq, I thought when I first got on here, I remember actually thinking, oh, we're going to have like trophy properties. We're going to have, that's why a lot of people I think buy Leclerc first because they came here thinking, ooh, I'm going to be able to buy a commercial property for the first time. Maybe I'm a real estate investor who has never been able to buy a McDonald's before, which that's me, right? I've bought a lot of real estate over the years and mostly private mortgages. I've talked about that. That's where most of my money is these days. But I thought, hey, that's cool. I've never had a McDonald's. I've had other small commercial properties, but let me buy some of that before I figured out that that deal hadn't closed, right? But I think that people expect these investment grade. The other thing, they do this where they have featured, right? Featured property. And a lot of people have told me they're like, oh, I thought that meant it was going to be one of the best deals because why else would you feature something on an investment site if it wasn't a good deal? And I think somebody at Lofty has already mentioned that, yeah, we think that it should just be like new listing or something. Although I don't know if that's even accurate for some of these, but it that's not what if I'm on an investment site and something's featured, I think it's perfectly normal to jump to the idea that, oh, this is one of the best investments available, right? Anyway, that is, I mean, I know none of this was new info. All I really want is like, please try to help these people out a little bit more. Welcome them into our group, and let's figure out how we can all make money together and help make the platform better together, right? In the industry, because it is like there's just unlimited potential here. um, nine times out of ten when I talk about fractional real estate to other real estate professionals, they have no idea what I'm talking about. So there is unlimited upside and growth available. But if the first experience that people have is, I thought I was buying one thing and I'm getting something totally different, and oh, I lost 29% of my value over my holding period. Well, it's going to be tough to grow, right? And so I don't know. That's it. That's all the thoughts. I know I tried to end this 10 minutes ago, and then I went on longer. You could just tell like it's getting to me, and I'd like us to just be a little bit kinder to those people. And that's it. Until next time, I'm going to keep complaining about Lofty so that you don't have to.